It's now been weeks since anyone's seen Sophia Franklin, a 16-year-old Wisconsin girl believed to be kidnapped by a 40-year-old man from Arkansas. But that's not all. Sophia apparently lived with this man for months last year and is even reportedly pregnant with his child. There's still an active Amber Alert in both Wisconsin and Arkansas, but the question remains, where is Sophia? Let's start at the very beginning. This is 16-year-old Sophia Franklin. Her parents describe her as smart, tenacious, hardworking, and generous. They say that Sophia enjoys music and sports. Overall, she just seems like a normal teen girl. But in April of 2024, that kind of changed. That's when Sophia began talking online to this guy. It's 40-year-old Gary Day of Cabot, Arkansas. Sophia isn't from Arkansas, though. At the time they started chatting, she lived with her family in Beaver Dam, Wisconsin, which is a full 11-hour drive from where Gary Day was in Arkansas. According to a criminal complaint, Sophia says she was the one who reached out to Day and that he told her about his divorce, a custody battle, and the fact that he was 40 years old. But Sophia's parents now believe she was being groomed by Day, so much so that in July of 2024, she just didn't come home. There had been a few warning signs ahead of this, though. Her parents say that Sophia had snuck out of the house a few times, and she was caught talking online. They were starting to get nervous about who she was chatting with there and on the phone. So much so that they even restricted who she could talk to, but it did not stop her from talking to Gary Day. The bizarre thing is that when she disappeared back in July, her parents didn't report her missing. According to court documents, her family thought that Sophia was staying with a friend and was still going to work in Wisconsin. And during the time she was gone, her parents talked to her too over the phone or text, that kind of thing, and it calmed their worries. Still, this part of the case is getting a lot of heat online. Here's what Sophia's mother, Leah Franklin, told TMJ4, quote, "We were in communication with her that entire time. She wasn't happy with us because we had tried to keep her safe, and she was really upset with us about that. We were trying to let her cool off. We were trying to keep communication lines open with her so that she would come home." But at the time, Sophia wasn't even in the state. She'd left to live in Arkansas with Gary Day, and that's where she stayed for literal months. Just a note here, Gary Day was on probation during this time for a child abuse case dating back to 2019. So he met up with Sophia in July, brought her back home to Arkansas, and in December, literally months later, her parents get this call from police in Arkansas who say, "Hey, we've got your daughter down here." And her parents are like, "What? We don't know anything about this." It's this time frame, though, that Sophia tells police she's the one who reached out to Day and she knew he was 40. It's also when she admitted to police that she's from Beaver Dam, Wisconsin, and said she would rather be with Gary Day than her own family there. Sophia's mother told local Wisconsin TV stations this is when her daughter confessed that she was pregnant, and investigators believe Gary Day is the father of her unborn child. According to court docs from around that time, Sophia told investigators she wasn't physical with Gary Day until they arrived in Arkansas because, quote, "they knew it was illegal in Wisconsin and Illinois." After all of this, Sophia was brought back to Wisconsin in December, and there was a no contact order placed between her and Gary Day. But that didn't quite seem to stop them from talking. On January 31st, her parents say they caught Sophia speaking with Gary Day. All of that brings us to February 2nd, when Sophia was last seen in Beaver Dam, Wisconsin. Her mom says Sophia wasn't feeling very well that day, so she left her alone in her room to kind of rest. When she went to check on Sophia the following day, she was gone. Security camera video from the family's doorbell camera shows a person who appears to be Gary Day walking through their yard right around the time that Sophia went missing. Her parents reported this to police right away, and Amber Alerts were put out in Wisconsin, Missouri, and Arkansas. And at the time of this recording, they're all still in effect. Right away, investigators released some photos of this Buick LaCrosse with Arkansas plates reading BBR20L. This is believed to be Day's vehicle. Sophia's sister saw it parked near the family home at about 5:20 a.m. on February 3rd. That same vehicle was caught on Wisconsin Department of Transportation cameras just before 8 a.m. the same day. This time it was near Sun Prairie, Wisconsin, about 30 minutes south of Beaver Dam. Investigators believe Day and Sophia headed south and that he changed his license plates on the vehicle at least once. Investigators say he changed the original Arkansas plates to ones out of Pennsylvania that read KGW 5186. Gary Day now faces 4 charges out of Wisconsin, 2 of child enticement and 2 more of abduction of a child. There's also a warrant out for his arrest in Arkansas for violating parole. Now, the Beaver Dam Police Department has received tips from across the nation in Sophia's case, and they've even started to involve the FBI. Here's a statement from them, quote, "The FBI is assisting local law enforcement officials in the Beaver Dam investigation. The FBI routinely offers assistance to our law enforcement partners to provide additional manpower and specialized resources if they become necessary." According to local TV station WBAY, the U.S. Marshals may soon join that search for Sophia as well. WBAY is the outlet that also reported a few more key facts about Sophia straight from her mother. Here they are. Sophia wears glasses. She also usually wears a rose gold ring with a pink heart-shaped gem on her left hand. According to her mother, Sophia doesn't look pregnant, but she has been dealing with morning sickness. Sophia's family say they haven't heard from her at all since she went missing in early February. Hey, by the way, I know we have a lot of sponsors on Law and Crime, and we appreciate you supporting them and supporting us. But we'd really like to know from all of you, what do you like? We created a 5-question survey that takes less than 30 seconds to fill out. You tell us what kind of brands and products you use so we can make sure to put the right companies in front of you. There's some incentive in all of this too. If you fill out the survey as a thank you, we will randomly select 5 of you and send you free Law and Crime t-shirts. So please fill out our survey at lawandcrime.com/survey. Again, it takes less than 30 seconds and you could get some free Law and Crime merch. All right, we went through the basics of everything we know so far in the case of Sophia Franklin, but I want to dig deeper into the intricacies. So for that, I'm going to bring on our expert guest today. That's retired Commander Will Spillar. Will, thank you for coming on. And I wanted to start at the very beginning of this case, back in April of last year, when this young woman, 16 years old, starts chatting online with a 40-year-old man. Right away, my head is thinking grooming. What are your thoughts?
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. The internet, the grooming that goes on in the internet, I mean, we don't think we've even scratched the surface of how deep this goes. And it's terrifying, especially as a parent.
According to court documents, we'll get down to this, like why she talked to the police, but according to court documents, she did say she told him straight up she's 16. He said he was going through a divorce. He talked to her about how he was age 40, and yet she continued to be part of this relationship. Now, I remember being 16, and I personally would want to stay far away from a 40-year-old. So does that kind of show that she was, in fact, groomed?
Sure. Absolutely. I mean, a 40-year-old, like you said, when you're 16, a 40-year-old is like 70. You know, it's not like 40, like we know what 40 is. It's like
Right.
70 years old. That's like your grandfather.
Exactly. That's what I'm thinking because when you're 16, I mean, 20 is even kind of old. They're an older guy. So 40, it just sounds way off. What are the things that people should be looking for in this grooming situation? We'll get to the intricacies of Sophia's case in a minute, but what sort of things are they telling these young girls?
Oh, I mean, I'm lonely. I'm going through divorce, typical thing. I'm having problems with my kids. They try to play on their sympathy, especially young girls. Try to make them feel, oh, you're beautiful. I mean, I can't believe you're only 16, things like that. You know, like, you look much older. You could be mature. You're mature, all that stuff, especially if they're not getting anything like that at home. And I'm not saying that's the situation here, but it's just trying to build up their ego, build up their self-esteem, and then bring some sympathy into it from them.
I think that checks out, kind of playing on their insecurities, especially being a 16-year-old girl. We've since found out that Sophia had some arguments, I guess, with her family, which honestly is not out of the norm for a 16-year-old girl fighting with her siblings or her parents. But sometimes, kids just feel a bit misunderstood and things weren't great at home, at least according to her. So much so that one day she just doesn't come home. Her parents believe that she's staying on the other side of town with a friend. She's still going to work. They kind of keep in contact with her, but they believe she's in Beaver Dam, Wisconsin. And it turns out she's actually in Arkansas and she's there for a matter of months. That is just wild to me, just to start, the fact that her family thought she was in Wisconsin and she's like 4 states away.
4 states away during the time when she should be in school, right? I mean, shouldn't somebody be checking out the school? And again, I don't want to cast any kind of judgment on the parents for how they, handle the situation, but across town doesn't seem like it's that hard to get to.
Exactly. I know the parents are getting a lot of flack in all of this, and they've been very outspoken, want Sophia home. I'm not blaming them at all, just reporting actually what happened. Something I thought about too is on our phones. I mean, I share my location with just my friends, so I can see where they are, they can see where I am. And I'm assuming a lot of parents like to do that with their children to see, like, oh, yeah, you're at school, oh, you're at work, whatever it may be. Is that something that parents should be doing?
Absolutely. And I'm going to tell you something. We want to give our kids a little space to grow up and do things, but you've got to monitor, especially now with the internet predators. And if you see your kid going into a room and closing the door and not letting you see, slamming down the top of the laptop real fast, you got to pay attention to that kind of stuff. And absolutely, if you're paying for that phone, I want to know where that phone is. So it's simple, and people, you got to be on them. There's so many bad things out there. You have to try to protect them from, including themselves sometimes.
It is a really fine line because you're right. They do deserve their privacy in a way as they're growing up and learning new things. But also, as you also said, there's so many bad things out there. And it kind of seems that's the route that Sophia was led down. She ended up in Arkansas for multiple months, July to December. As you said, she should have been in school during that time. There's not a lot that I know about what happened while they were in Arkansas, except that she apparently got pregnant. And this part I have some questions about because in the state of Wisconsin, the age of consent is 18. However, in Arkansas, the age of consent is 16 and she's 16. So, what does that mean?
Well, my question is, when did she turn 16? Before she was lured down to Arkansas? I mean, at some point she had to be 15. I mean, I don't know if she just turned 16 or she turned 16 just before April. I don't know what her birth date is, but she's missing from the state of Wisconsin. She's not a citizen of the state of Arkansas. Does that matter? I'm not sure. But still, 16 and 40, I don't care what the age of consent is. That's a little off.
Absolutely agreed, a little off. And the fact that we now have a young girl who is pregnant and now missing. I mean, okay, so following the timeline we have, in December, her parents get this call from Arkansas police. Hey, we've got your daughter. They're like, what's going on? She's brought back to Wisconsin, and there's a no contact order placed between her and Gary Day. However, her parents think in late January they caught her chatting with him. How does this work? The no contact order, just that they can't, see each other in real life, but should it be no calls, no texts, no nothing?
Well, it's all specified in the order. And in a no contact order, all of that should be covered. No FaceTime, no texting, no telephone communication, and no personal communication. That should all be specified in the order.
It would be interesting to see what was in the order. And I'm kind of just inferring that it was no contact at all. We don't want to see you texting. We don't want to see you FaceTiming, whatever it may be, especially from the concerned point of her parents. All right, we got to jump to February now, though. It's February 2nd, the last day that anyone has seen Sophia, and her mom says she wasn't feeling well. So on the morning of February 3rd, she leaves her in bed. We're going to let her rest. But when she goes to check up on her later, she is completely gone. And we now have surveillance video from their doorbell or ring camera showing someone who looks eerily similar to Gary Day in the area in their yard. So we believe that these two are together. What are your thoughts? Do you think they were in communication and she snuck out to go meet with him? Did he come in and break in and take her out of the room? What is just your guess?
I think that she voluntarily went with him, and this is just my guess. I don't know for sure, but if I was the parents, and like, I'm sure they could see if she's going to leave, she's not just going to leave with the clothes on her back. There's going to be evidence that she planned to leave, clothes, items that she took with her. That would give you a clear understanding of the situation of how she left. He came there, they left, they got in the car. I know the car was parked on the street. I think some neighbors saw that his black Buick Lucerne was parked on the street. It sounds to me like it was planned by both of them.
The black Buick, I wanted to talk about that too, because that's one of the clues we have in this case. The vehicle that he was driving, originally it had Arkansas plates. So when an Amber Alert went out, we had those plate numbers. However, it was later seen with Pennsylvania plates. So it seems as though he switched out the plates in order to mask the identity of the vehicle. That was a couple weeks ago, though. So I'm wondering and just worried that perhaps he would change the plates again or even change the vehicle, because that's one of the main clues that we have.
Yes, and it's a black Buick Lucerne, which they only made about 5 million of. So it's not like it's a rare vehicle. And changing license plates is as easy as pulling into a rest area or a truck stop and grabbing a plate off a car. You can change them. You could have a trunk full of them. But my question is, where are they? What's financing all this? I mean, it's hard to get lost when you're broke.
I think that's a great question too, because he's obviously not going to be showing up for work, because if he was, we would know where he was. He's not texting or calling or anything, at least to our knowledge, because I can assume that investigators, I mean, the FBI is on this. If he has his phone with them, it's 3 weeks since she's gone missing. I'm assuming that they would want to target it and track it, right?
Absolutely. Phones, debit cards, any kind of spending. You got to get gas for your car, unless he's got a cache of dollars. He's got to be spending money somewhere. And if it's not cash, you can trace that, provided it's his card. Now, I know that his mother reported him missing down in Arkansas too. So you have to wonder, not for nothing, I'd be looking at her stuff too to see if her cards are being used.
We're talking about so many different states here, because we have a girl from Wisconsin. He's from Arkansas. They had to drive through a couple of different states. So right now, there are Amber Alerts in Wisconsin and Arkansas. I believe in some parts of Missouri too, the path that they would have driven through. Does that make things a bit more complicated in that there's so much area that they could be in? I mean, those are the states we know that for sure they were in, but he obviously doesn't have any qualms of crossing state borders. So they could go east, they could go west, they could go wherever. I mean, it just makes it so much bigger what we're dealing with.
Absolutely. And you also got to remember this girl's pregnant. I mean, I think it's the early stages of pregnancy. She's having morning sickness. She was getting treatment while she was home. What if she gets sick? You got to get her treatment, or you should get her treatment. And again, once the money runs out, what are they going to do? It's just it's a tough situation. I'm really surprised that they haven't had more sightings, because there's cameras on every highway. But again, if you're looking for a black Buick Lucerne with, you don't know what kind of plate, it's hard to find that.
I think what's tricky too in all of this is, for instance, I'm just thinking the Luigi Mangione case. The reason that we found him at that McDonald's in Pennsylvania is because someone had seen his image nationally and was like, hey, that's the guy. So sometimes we do have civilians who help in this case. However, for the Sophia Franklin case specifically, the photos of her were kind of few and far between. We actually didn't even report on this when it first happened, because there were like 2 photos. A couple more have been released. However, they're not like great photos. I mean, they're her like with a music stand in front of her. I mean, things where her face is kind of obscured a bit. And also, she's just another girl. She's got brown hair. She looks relatively normal compared to other girls her age. Does that make things even more tricky? The fact that her image isn't wildly out there.
It's her image isn't out there wildly. I don't know if she had a driver's license. You could have gotten a school ID image. I didn't see any of that. Um, and like you said, she looks like every girl. It's every girl with her dad. Stopping to get
Yeah.
something to eat is what it could look like. Very, very difficult situation all the way around, especially if they don't want to be found, if she's not being held against her will. It's going to be difficult. She's not going to make an outcry. Plus, it's not national news. The Mangione case was everywhere. It was international news. In this case, this is little girl from a small town in Wisconsin, and a guy from a small town in Arkansas. So it's not like it's national news. It's a big deal to everybody involved, but it's not like it's national news. So it's not necessarily out there.
Exactly. I think that's why it's a bit of an uphill climb for the people who are searching for her. Just the fact that her image isn't everywhere, number one, as you said. And then number two, the fact that she wanted to go with him. So that's leading into my next question. In Wisconsin, he faces a couple of charges: child enticement and child abduction. However, she kind of consented to go with him, we at least believe, based on their past relationship. How does all of that work? I mean, she's still 16, she's still a minor, she's still underage. So even if she consented, it's still abduction, right?
Well, you hit it on the head when you said in Wisconsin the legal age of consent is 18. So technically, she cannot consent.
So she can't, there's no reason for her to leave the home with this man, even if she says, yes, I want to do it. It's still illegal. So that's kind of an interesting part of all of this. What is next, do you think, in the case? What's ahead? She's still been missing for about 3 weeks at this point. What do you think are the future steps?
They got to keep doing what they're doing. They have to, like I said, you need to look a little deeper into the family if they haven't already done that. His mother reported him missing. I know he's got domestic violence in his background. He was violent against his children, if I read that correctly. Um, they got to show up somewhere. Like I said, the money's got to run out at some point. Now, when that does, who knows where that's is it going to be in North Dakota? Is it going to be in Texas? You were right about that too. They can go anywhere they want, especially if she's not being held against her will. If she voluntarily goes, it's going to be a little bit more difficult to find them and I think it's when the money train runs out, I think is when you're going to see them pop up.
And hopefully that's soon, that the money trail would run out. Hopefully no medical issues either. As you said, she is pregnant. Just a lot happening in this case. One will continue to follow, though, and see where it heads or what new developments there are. Will Spielar, thank you for coming on with us and walking us through it.
My pleasure. Anytime.
Anyone with more information about where Sophia Franklin is should contact the Beaver Dam Police Department. Reporting for Law&Crime, I'm Sierra Gillespie.